When most people think Section 8 tenants, they instantly think low rents, problem tenants, government headaches, and I own 90 houses and every single one of these properties are rented out to tenants on the Section 8 program. I've dealt with a lot of regular tenants, so in this video I'm going to be breaking down to you guys the exact difference between Section 8 tenants and regular tenants and show you the real numbers so that by the end of this video you'll know exactly why I rent out all of my properties to tenants on the Section 8 program. So I'm going to start off with the thing that everyone cares about the most, which is the rents that you're going to get on these properties. So let's take a single family home in Indianapolis, for example. This home right here, this is a single family home. It's 3 bedrooms listed at $1,350. And you can see this home is in very good shape. This is a home that's completely move-in ready. Any Section 8 tenant would love to move into a home like this. Now, if you go back to this listing, it's been listed for 40 days. So they've been struggling to find a tenant for a total of 40 days already. And again, they're only asking for $1,350 in rents. Whereas if you go to the HUDuser.gov website, this is the website where the government will tell you exactly how much they pay in rents in every single county across the country, and oftentimes it's broken down into zip codes. So coming back to this property, this is in the zip code 46201. So if you go back to the HUDuser.gov website and go down to 46201, you'll see that they're going to be paying $1,660 every single month in rent if you just rented out this home to a tenant on the Section 8 program. So on this list here, it starts off with studios at $970, 1 bedrooms at $1,100, 2 bedrooms at $1,280, and then 3 bedrooms at $1,660. So compare that to what they're struggling to get. That's over $300 a month in rents that these people would just get if they rented out this home to a tenant on the Section 8 program. And that's even if they're able to get this $1,350 in rents, which they might not be able to get if they have to drop the rents because the property has been sitting on the market for too long. And we could take a look at another example as well. This property is another home in Indianapolis. They're listing it for rents at $1,425. And if you look at the photos, again, this one's not in as good of shape as the other one, but it's still in very good shape, and this is something that a lot of Section 8 tenants would be happy to move into. A lot of Section 8 tenants are lucky if they can even get into a single family home. A lot of them end up having to resort to the multifamily homes or apartment complexes or sometimes even the manufactured homes. So a home like this, it's in perfect condition for a Section 8 tenant. And if you come back over here to the description, to the listing, this one has been on the market for 41 days. And if you read the description down here, they're claiming to not be approved with the housing authority in this area. So they're specifically marketing for standard tenants and they're struggling to get $1,425 a month in rents. Whereas if you go to this zip code 46219 on this HUDuser.gov website, they would be getting $1,700 a month in rents. So again, that's a $300 increase in rents that they would get if they rented out their home to a tenant on the Section 8 program versus renting out their home to a tenant that's a regular tenant. Now, let's say you extrapolate that over a year, $300 a month in rents. That's $3,600 extra in profits in your pockets by renting out these homes to tenants on the Section 8 program alone. And let's say you had a lot of properties. Let's say you had 10 properties. That's an extra $36,000 every single year in profits by just renting out these homes to tenants on the Section 8 program. So in my case, I have 90 properties. So you can see just with the rent factor alone, it makes a lot of sense very quickly to start renting out these homes to tenants on the Section 8 program versus traditional tenants. Now, this point also brings me into the second topic, which is the actual payment reliability that you get with Section 8 tenants. Because if you're renting out your home to regular tenants, I've heard it time and time again, they always have something come up, whether it's they lost their job, whether their car blew up and they had to pay for their car expense and now they don't have the money to pay the rent on time, or sometimes they make something up like they let their friend borrow some money and now they're waiting for their friend to pay them back before they can pay you. There's always going to be excuses you hear from these standard tenants, which is why for regular landlords, the number one issue that they face is dealing with late and missed rental payments on their properties because it's something that is very difficult to avoid. So when you compare that to tenants that are on the Section 8 program, these are government-backed tenants, meaning every single time you place a Section 8 tenant into your home, the government is paying for their rents for them so that you as the landlord never have to worry about those late or missed rental payments. The government will just send the direct deposit right into your bank account every first of the month. Typically, they wire the money out on the first and then it'll hit your bank account on either the second or the third of the month, but they send those rents every first of the month and they don't make excuses about this. They're just going to send those rents. They're not going to say their car broke down. They're not going to say they lost their job. They're just going to send you the money. And a lot of people are worried about this recent government shutdown and if Section 8 landlords were still collecting rents. Even during that government shutdown, this was the longest government shutdown we've had in history, I was still collecting rents every first of the month because Section 8 is considered one of the essentially funded programs from the government. So for example, military aid, that continued to get funded. Same thing with Social Security and same thing with Section 8. They still paid those rents every first of the month. So there was no difference even through a government shutdown. Now, another example of this is an extreme example, but during COVID, for example, traditional tenants were allowed to just not pay the rents. And as the landlord for these rental properties, you never got recompensated. devastated. So it was month after month after month of tenants not paying the rents, where the landlord just had to pay the mortgage on this property without getting paid their rents, and they were just bleeding money every single month. Whereas Section 8 landlords were still collecting the rents every single month. They'd never had to worry about that. And actually during that time, a lot of these people who had regular rentals saw people that were renting out their homes to Section 8 tenants and just decided to switch because it didn't make sense to keep on going through these months and months and months of not getting paid rent when they can simply rent out their properties to tenants that get their rents paid for by the government. Now, you're already making a lot more money on the rent as it is with the rental amounts that you're getting with Section 8, but when you take into consideration the fact that you don't ever get missed rental payments, it also adds another substantial amount to your profits. And some people might say, well, what about the tenants? Sometimes they pay a portion of the rents too. Yeah, the tenants do pay a portion of the rents in some cases. Maybe it's $50 or $100, but it's very unlikely they're not going to pay those rents, because if they stop paying that small rental portion that they have, they can get kicked off the Section 8 program for life, and they're not going to want to risk this over this $50 or $100 a month. And let's just say they don't pay that $50 for the month. What are you going to do? Evict them over $50? It's not going to hurt your cash flow very much. Versus a regular tenant not paying $1,500, that's where you're going to start noticing it. And number 3 is the turnover and vacancy. This is one of the biggest expenses that any landlord has to deal with when they have rental properties. Because when a tenant moves out, not only is the landlord not going to be getting paid rents for 1 to 2 months as they find a new tenant, but they also have to repair the property to get it ready to get rented out to another tenant, which is at least going to cost them another few $1,000s. So here's where things get interesting, because with traditional tenants, on average, they're going to stay in a property for 2 to 3 years, which means as a landlord, every 2 to 3 years, you're going to be having to do new renovations on the property to get it ready for that next tenant to move in. Section 8 is a little bit different. Section 8 tenants have to wait an average of 2.5 years to get approved for their Section 8 voucher. Once they get approved for that Section 8 voucher, they only have a limited amount of time to find a home to live in. Usually that's 60 days, so they have 60 days to find a place to move into, and if they can't find something, they're going to lose their voucher and it's given to the next person in line. So as a Section 8 tenant, this is a very stressful process to go through. So once they find a home to live in, they typically just want to stay there. They don't want to have to worry about going through that process again. Now in bigger cities, you can even see sometimes these tenants have a much longer wait list. Like I invest most of my properties in Indianapolis. I've had tenants tell me they've waited 20 years to get accepted for their Section 8 voucher. So when you look at someone like that who's waited that long to get accepted for a voucher and she finds a place to move into, these people are very grateful they were able to get into something. They're not going to want to risk going through that again. So the average time for a Section 8 tenant to stay in a property is 8.5 years. And that's the average across the country. If you're a good landlord, they're going to stay in your property for an even longer amount of time. And the additional benefit on top of that is when you do deal with turnover, when you have a tenant move out of your property, it becomes very easy to get a new tenant in your property because there's still a very long wait list of these Section 8 tenants looking for housing. This is actually part of the reason the government pays very high rents for Section 8, like I was showing you in the first example, because they have to incentivize more landlords to accept Section 8 tenants to move into their properties, because right now there's way more Section 8 tenants looking for housing than there are landlords accepting Section 8 tenants into their houses. So typically what we're seeing is that the government will pay anywhere between 20 to 30% higher rents to incentivize these landlords to accept these Section 8 tenants into their homes. Now, section number 4, we're going to be talking about the property wear and tear. This is where most people freak out about renting out their homes to tenants on the Section 8 program because they immediately think low income family, low quality tenant, they're going to destroy your home. This could not be any farther from the truth. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say that with Section 8, there's no low quality tenants, but just like anything else, there's the low quality tenants and then there's the fair share of high quality tenants as well. You as the landlord are responsible for making sure you're screening your tenants properly to make sure you can get those high quality tenants. Now, the thing with Section 8 is that these housing authorities are very strict on these tenants. If the tenants break the lease agreement in any way, shape, or form, they can get kicked off the program. It just has to be reported to them. So something that I do as a Section 8 landlord with 90 houses is I'll have my property managers go inside every single one of my properties every 3 months to make sure these tenants are following the lease agreement, make sure they don't have any extra people or pets in the home that shouldn't be there, and to also make sure they're not doing anything like hoarding, for example, that's going to cause more problems down the road. Now, by me having my property managers go inside these units every 3 months and the tenants know this, not only does it make it so that the tenants take better care of the unit, but it also makes it so that if anything starts to come up, the property managers can handle it before it becomes a big issue. Because in most cases, when there is a lot of damage that gets done to a property, it's something that happens over a long period of time because there's a bunch of deferred maintenance that no one is even made aware of until it becomes a much bigger issue. So if I see my tenants causing damage to the property during these quarterly inspections, A, I can get it handled early, but B, I can let them know like, hey, if you keep on doing this, if you keep on breaking the lease agreement, I will report you to the housing authority and get you kicked off the program for life. It's not something I like to do, but as a business owner who owns these 90 houses all rented out to Section 8 tenants, it's something that you pretty much have to do is every now and then remind them that you can get them kicked off the program if they're not following the lease. It's very simple. You're not having them do anything crazy. You're just having them follow the lease agreement. Regular tenants, if you try to kick them out of your property because they're breaking the lease agreement, that's fine. They'll just go to another property. They don't have that much of a reason to follow the lease agreement. Section 8 tenants, this is huge for them. If they break the lease agreement and get kicked off the Section 8 program, they could literally end up homeless. There's a reason they're on the Section 8 program, because they cannot afford housing. And of course, Section 8 also does their annual inspections, which is kind of like a double-edged sword. It does make you keep the property in good condition, but at the same time, that makes it so that you have to spend less money down the road in long-term repairs, because regular landlords, they don't have strict requirements that they have to follow to keep these homes in good condition. So if they don't want to check up on the property for 5 years, they don't check up on the property for 5 years, and then that's when the big expenses start coming up. Section 8 landlords, we're held to a much higher standard, so we have to keep our properties in good condition, which inevitably prevents those major expenses from creeping up anyways. And the last thing I want to talk about, number 5, is rent increases. When you're renting out your property to regular tenants, if you want to raise the rents every single year on these tenants, I can guarantee you they're going to move out within 2 to 3 years. They're going to go find a better deal for themselves, because they're the ones that have to pay the entirety of that rent increase every time you try to increase their rents. Versus Section 8 tenants, when you increase the rents, you're requesting that rent increase from the government, and if the government approves it, which they do almost every single time, the government's the one paying the rent increase, because the government is the one paying the rents. Sometimes the tenant might have to pay an additional portion, like let's say you get a $100 rent increase. Yeah, they might have an extra $5 or $10 they have to pay sometimes, but they don't really care about that. They're not going to go out finding a new place to live and going through all that stress again over a $5 to $10 rent increase in their rental portion. Now, on average, rents in the United States increase between 5 to 8% every single year. So for almost every single one of my properties, I can get rent increases almost every single year without worrying about the tenants wanting to leave to go find a better deal, because they don't really care about it. And as my rents go up, my mortgage amount stays the same, so my cash flow consistently increases on each one of my properties year over year. And again, as you extrapolate this out over 10, 30, 50 properties, that's a big difference every single year you raise the rents. So when you stack it all up, Section 8 beats regular tenants in almost every single scenario, as long as you're doing your due diligence as a landlord properly. You get higher rents, you get more consistency in the rental payments, you get lower vacancy, you get rent increases year over year, you get higher quality tenants if you're screening your tenants properly. And these are all of the things that lead to a profitable long-term real estate business. Now, just to reiterate, are there bad Section 8 tenants? Of course, just like with traditional tenants, there's going to be the good ones and there's going to be the bad ones. But the key is your systems, how you're screening your tenants, where you're buying your properties, how you inspect these properties, and how you manage these properties. I started investing in Section 8 properties 3 years ago, and I now have 90 Section 8 rental properties across 3 different cities in 3 different states, with management companies and systems in place for all of these properties to make sure everything gets ran properly. And I've also helped over 100 people go through this process successfully, just like I've done. I'm personally cash flowing $64,000 every single month in profits across my 90 rental properties, which pays for everything I have. It pays for the penthouse, it pays for my Maybach, but it also pays for me to be able to buy more properties every single month. So the next time someone tells you Section 8 doesn't work, just show them the numbers, send them this video. And this isn't something that just worked for me. I've even helped over 100 people go through this exact same process so that they can get it done successfully as well by implementing the systems that I use. And if you want to be the next person that I help out building a successful real estate portfolio, I'm going to leave a link down below to be able to apply to work directly with me. I'll hold your hand through the entire process from A to Z and make sure you're picking the right cities to buy these properties in the right neighborhoods, to make sure you're setting up your property management systems properly so that you never have to go see these properties in person. I'll literally walk you through every step of the process for your first 5 properties to make sure you can get to a position that you fully understand exactly how this system works and how to implement it on your own, as well as making sure that you'll be able to scale this business as quickly and efficiently as possible so that you can start getting paid guaranteed government-backed rents every single first of the month. Now, if you got value out of this video, if you made it this far, make sure to drop a like on this video, also hit subscribe, and lastly, drop a comment saying Section 8 wins in the comment section down below so that I know you made it to the end. So good luck with your Section 8 journey and escape that 9 to 5 rat race.